Start. So maybe I will start introducing myself. So you potentially already see a wonderful logo of the company that I'm working for. So my name is Łukasz Łoboda. I'm working as application manager for a really nice company called OEC, or OE Connection. That's kind of the full name. This is a US company that kind of works in automotive industry, creating nice products to sell more parts globally. So I'm actually, in the past, was working as a developer. So it's not only that I'm just a manager. I think that I have some idea how to write a code. I think that's why they actually sent me to this conference. So I hope I will not bore you. Obviously, there's a disclaimer that what I'm going to share today is only my own private opinion, and OEC has nothing to do with that. Even the problems. Especially those. So I want to talk today about understanding unhealthy syndromes of software delivery, and it's kind of, in general, the software development in modern and current organizations. So we all know that creating software is hard. So definitely today I'm not going to speak about how to estimate, how to make a right planning, because I'm not an agile coach. And I think there are like thousands of ways how to do it, and they potentially have a better idea than mine. So what I'm going to speak today is something that I think is more important, because it's something that frustrates a lot of developers that I know. So I'm going to speak today about the syndromes that our organizations usually have, that have like very significant impact on our daily lives as software engineers, and kind of working in an environment that, well, just kind of makes things a little bit more complex, more challenging, and not only for ourselves as software developers, but for organizations themselves. So I'm actually going to talk about a few things that are related to software development and obviously to managers and kind of managerial stuff as well, because we still live in the same kind of organizations where those both things kind of happen at the same time. So some definitions. So this is not like a definition from encyclopedia. I just kind of try to take it in the context of my talk. So for me, the syndrome actually means a really bad chronic behavior that usually is a part of organization for years, and without being solved actually is causing quite a lot of problems. And we are going to discuss patients, and the patient is going to be organizations. And we are going to, I think, I hope discuss, because I will potentially ask a few questions around. So don't be mad at me if I'm going to ask you to raise your hands a couple of times. I hope you will, be participating in this quick survey. Okay, so that's our goal. We want to know what's wrong with current organizations and what possibly we could do in order to achieve that. It's just a kind of few syndromes, because I know that I'm not going to be able to cover all of them, so I want to kind of to be short. And I've kind of outlined those that, from my knowledge and working with many people and based on my experience, are kind of pretty significant, important, and annoying. Okay, so I'm calling organization syndromes and tribal syndromes. And when I'm calling tribal, I mean the tribe of managers and tribe of technical people, developers and architects, DevOps, and the technical group. So I would like to first talk about the environmental, because as Dr. House said, environmental factors are very, very important in trying to determine what is the root cause of the sickness of our patient. So we know that the current organizations we have in second decade of the 21st century is definitely different from what we have in 90s or the beginning of the century. And one of the biggest factors is that software is eating the world, as Mark Andreessen kind of said. And essentially, right now, the requirements and amount of developers that are necessary to be available in the market just skyrocket in the last couple of decades, which I think is kind of visible in amount of developers that kind of join the workforce every single day. And I think it also explains how many people we have with a kind of longer period of industry experience. On average, we're actually getting lower, as you can see. This is kind of people starting, and they are kind of like the majority of the development population. And there are actually more statistics that kind of proves that we, as kind of the technical group, getting less and less experience. So we have like cumulatively a lot more experience, but the people we are working on average, they are younger, a lot younger. In 90s, in 80s, in 70s, the people that actually started to work as software developers, they are after PhDs. They already work for a couple of years. And nobody at that time would call a developer with few years of experience, like 5 years of experience, a senior developer. Back then, it was like 15, 10 years if the guy was exceptional. But those days, you could see a situation where people that have like few years of experience think that they are seniors. And I mean, there's a reason for that. There's kind of nothing wrong with that. We have like an environment that is changing very dynamically. We have a lot of technologies kind of emerged. And we have a lot of need for developers. That's why they are appearing. So this is another thing that is very important, is the kind of increase in developer wage globally and in USA. So I can say that the wage in USA was a pretty important factor for my company, OEC, to actually go to Poland. So that's definitely very understandable. But the idea is simple. Every single year, we, on average, regardless of the level of our technical knowledge, the cost of having developers is increasing, which means that we are getting more and more expensive. And that kind of shifts really strongly the kind of standard balance that we had in a company. In 90s and in 80s, the situation was simple. You had a manager, and he was earning a lot of money. Then you have like those developers, and they were just earning some money. It wasn't bad, but it was not like super nice amount of money, around like $100,000 per year that we have at the moment. So in the last couple of decades, the kind of balance completely changed. Right now, it's pretty uncommon to see that developers are kind of the most expensive staff that the company have, apart from directors and executives. And because we are the foundation of a lot of the work, it means that right now, the cost of running a project, any product, any maintenance, it's huge, and it's always based on cost of having developers, which means that you guys are the most precious people, most precious staff that the company have. So I think all of you would think that, well, if that's the case, then we need to know how most effectively we need to use those people, because, well, they cost a lot of money. So we need to kind of have like really good expectation and be really smart how to do it. And is there any of you here who would say that we are at the point where we are comfortable to say that majority of the companies know how to build and sustain a good kind of development environment? So if there are anything that thinks that we are there, could you raise a hand? And are there people that are actually afraid that we are still not there? Could you guys raise a hand? Yeah, so I expected that. Thank you for participation. So the idea is simple. We are still very unhappy. And I want to actually talk about this unhappiness because I am kind of seeing it in my daily life for a couple of years in different kind of factors. I'm speaking with many of my friends that have very similar issues. And I would like to share a few ideas with you, because I've kind of discovered that sometimes there are kind of viable solutions to those problems. So next thing is kind of additional statistic that I kind of mentioned. It's kind of showing how many people are kind of looking for courses around trying to get into software development. And as you can see, this is like 2008. This is the current 2018. And the increase is huge. Just kind of look at this one. It's kind of like nearly doubled. And that's actually that means that we have still a problem with getting more and more people into our industry. This is kind of just showing like how much popular the full stacks recently are. Like everybody is full stack lately. Okay, so kind of the summary. We have huge demands. We have a huge population of new developers that don't really have any significant amount of experience. And when you actually building a new software and you need badly, so this is like challenging product. You have an ambitious company with challenging product. They want to do like a really great thing. The problem is they need to find talent which is not like available in enough quantities, you could say. So what usually companies are doing is trying to kind of get more younger people, and kind of that creates a lot of problems because those people not really have the experience, they don't really experience much of the healthy environment. So if the given organization does not necessarily have experience in doing things in the right way, then how possibly can it actually achieve any kind of greatness if even the people that are actually doing the job don't necessarily know what's the best approach? Okay, so we have quite a lot of industry standards. We have quite a lot of practices. We have a lot of consultants of Scrum, of Agile, a lot of kind of PMI consultants that will be very, very happy to show you the best possible way how to deliver software. But, well, let's be honest, it's not that shiny, and usually those consultants don't really make a change because they cater to a different kind of people. They usually try to make sure that the executives and the directors, that they are happy, that they are provided with processes and concepts and ideas how to kind of manage those expensive stuff. But we all know that in many cases it fails. It just fails because it kind of takes time to understand that software development is not like building a bridge. It's not like kind of factory process like many people think. And very often, and I've seen it kind of in my own eyes, that many kind of consultants would like to share this kind of view with executives and directors because that's easy. This is for them an easy way to understand what can they do to essentially get better, and everyone want to get better. So we know that the goal is to kind of create a right environment where we have like a sustainable environment where we can make like effective development regardless of the way. I mean, I believe that the people, that the developers have the capacity to self-organize themselves and kind of try to find the best way to work. And I think we have a lot of practices and a lot of tools to do it, and a lot of knowledge around. So definitely we can make it, but we can make it only if the environment in the given organization is going to be okay. I mean, we all know what water fail means, or scrum fall, as other people are calling it. So it's not that lovely yet, unfortunately. So I would like to kind of start with organizational syndromes. I think they are kind of the most common and the most troublesome, because essentially you want to turn entire ship, which sometimes kind of have like a couple of thousands of people, and usually the branch of the IT takes like dozens and sometimes even hundreds of people, which kind of make it really tricky. Okay, so this is kind of, I think, most common. I think we actually had a talk yesterday that actually covered in some detail the Conway's law and how it actually affects our environment. Because it's not only about the code base, it's all about kind of communication, just kind of making sure that we are doing kind of the right way. I think some of you potentially had a situation in your professional life where you are working for a company, you're working on a project, and then suddenly kind of you learn that someone else in a different department or different team is doing something nearly exactly the same with like few little differences. And I mean, in essence, we kind of are wasting our time, right? We could like work together on the common solution, but we are not. Because the Conway's law kind of put it strictly. We have a situation where we are creating all of our project priorities, all of our kind of practices and kind of daily goals within the boundaries of kind of our responsibility, I kind of say it, which means that the branches essentially don't really talk to each other apart from just running in kitchen for a couple of minutes and kind of chatting. But that's all. And that kind of makes it problematic because not only we're wasting resources, we are wasting money, and we are actually bringing some sort of very unhealthy competition. Because if you are doing actually the two things in the same way, or a little bit different, it kind of makes many people kind of feel uncomfortable whether or not the project makes sense. And when developers know that they're actually doubling the same work, and that kind of doesn't make sense, they're not really motivated. I mean, I think from my experience, developers are the people that can really easily get motivated when such, well, weird situation happens. I mean, this is unlogical, right? Because you are the most expensive people in a company. So it actually affects entire corporation, and I mean, the reason is corporate kind of organization itself, and it's hard to change the entire organization, right? So it turns out it's not that hard when. So this is essentially kind of what I've talked. So you can actually find a right treatment because there is like this universal language that resonates really, really well with every single manager in an entire company. So imagine that you have a company that was kind of founded in, let's say, 80s. So they have like a lot of old managers, you know, those guys that really like to write the papers, to sign all of the forms, that kind of wants to kind of make like all of those nice shiny processes. Everything has to be fully under control. So they're actually one of the reasons why that happens, because they definitely have their kind of bonus system and kind of goals just specifically to just providing this kind of solution. They don't ever think about kind of thinking kind of more widely about the problem. But imagine the situation where one of the directors that actually has kind of two branches of technologies. So he's a business guy, but for his kind of business teams, there are like two teams. And then some developer, or even a kind of, let's say, some junior manager, is sending an email to him saying that, guys, you know what? We just noticed that we have two products that essentially do the same, and we wasted around $100,000 in the last 2-3 months on this project. How do you think that this director, this manager will react? I can definitely say that he'll be pissed, like super pissed. And what's worse, that happened on his own land, which means that usually it's manager's job is to take responsibility and to take profits, obviously. But the idea is if by some reason around his responsibility, company is losing money, this is a problem. I mean, this is huge. I mean, in a moment, something that was like a non-existent problem, everything was just going fine. Like, we've got the reports. Reports are showing that we are green. Everything is perfect. And then somebody just sent an email, and the only thing he actually understood from the email is, we lost $100,000, American dollars. And in his mind, it's like someone just took $100,000, put it on a CEO desk, and kind of put a fire on it. And he knows that the worst thing could happen at this point. If he will not manage the situation and even escalate the problem that we are going to lose even more money, then essentially this is going to start to be a problem, like a huge problem. So what was the source of this email in this theoretical situation? Well, it could be like any of you guys, regardless of how junior you are. this is something that usually we just don't do. We just kind of try to focus ourselves on kind of providing a code. But we roughly know what is the cost of developer hour, right? We can even try to approximate one way or another. What is kind of the market rate? If we know how many people are working, we can kind of approximate what is the range. Then you can go to any guy, any manager that is working with, whether it's your supervisor or not, and just send a simple message that, yeah, you know what, I think we'll just lose that much money. And send it to a few people. The thing is, guys, in current organizations, especially those that are kind of well established and have all of those processes, the email like that cannot be buried. If someone tried to ignore that, that would be even worse. I mean, that could be the worst thing that could happen. So essentially, this single email that could be initiated even by the junior developer, if he actually got all of the facts and nobody could disagree that happened, that could kind of put a chain reaction, sometimes to the point of actually reaching CEO. And then the discussion will happen. Why the hell we did that? And it's funny because we always kind of try to focus about technology, but it's like very, very simple reason and very simple way to kind of provide this super powerful argument. It's like a superpower in every single organization because nobody is going to ignore a situation like that. And try to imagine a situation when you have like very reactive company that don't know what to do, and you have like this junior developer that he actually seen how much chaos he actually put with the single email. So he had this like side job at the moment when he's putting like 20 minutes again to try to find if there are like any other projects that had the same situation. And he's approximating again. He said, oh, you know what? But actually, I found a second project that is like 5 times more expensive when it comes to the additional cost. And this is the moment where the kind of sky starts falling. People start kind of screaming in the business, and they are really, really motivated to make changes and make a decision and be very, very reasonable. The problem is we're always talking about code, technology, technical debt, deadlines, estimates, requirements, but we don't necessarily speak the language of the company. The company, one of the kind of first goals, apart from their mission, because there are many companies that have the mission, they want to cater to specific people, provide a specific service, and that's kind of their goal of their existence. At least that's for the OEC. But one of the most important kind of metrics is how much money we are earning, because without money, the organization cannot exist. So they don't take lightly anything like that. And there are obviously many companies that don't necessarily make like the right tracking of projects, but you can still approximate. You in the team know how much time you can actually spend. You can ask the other developer how much time he spent and the people that he know. You can put a number. And the problem is, even if this number is inaccurate, the only request that could come from the business is, okay, could somebody put me an accurate number? But you already kind of triggered the problem. You triggered the action. The chain reaction is already happening, and it won't stop until the decisions are made how to fix the problem, because this is a problem. Yeah, so like I said, from my perspective, the best solution is to kind of make it simple, make it well understandable, and offer a solution. Because obviously, when we have a situation that organizations don't necessarily know how to create an environment, the right environment to create software, well, we are the experts, right? We know what is the industry standards. We know what kind of practices would be the best for us to not repeat the same problem. We may be wrong, but I think at some point, I could say that in majority of cases, when the people start to organize themselves, they get to the right point and kind of make the right decision. And it's simple. And then your frustration of doing something that essentially is going to be thrown away kind of in a month's time is completely going away. You are finally in a reasonable organization that actually values the work that you are doing. So imagine the situation, because this is kind of very important for me, because I believe that developers seek the kind of the higher purpose in their daily work. They wanted to achieve something, they wanted to build something, they wanted actually to advance themselves to the next level. They kind of try to find the challenges, which means that a situation like that, when we are actually doing something stupid that is not usable, is unacceptable to ourselves. And kind of it demotivates us greatly, and I think this is one of the kind of main reasons why many developers are changing their work so often. Okay, let's just move on. So this is, do you guys know, who actually know what the cargo cult is? Yeah, so I'll try to explain to the rest of you guys. So so this is kind of like the term, so it's not essentially to this very specific example that I'm going to discuss, but essentially it's a kind of belief system that happens where the less advanced culture is kind of experience the benefits, or more advanced culture that kind of completely can't understand and comprehend. Essentially the situation where white people is kind of coming to a land where they kind of never seen like the technology and all of the goods that the modern civilization can provide. So there's like this very good example of kind of a tribe that's living in a remote island in northeast of Australia, like a couple of small islands. So there was kind of a remote island with a tribe that essentially never had a contact with any modern civilization. And this is right at the time around World War II. And apparently this island was kind of fairly nice place to put a military base. First the Japanese kind of came, put a military base, and they had the local people. So they want to know what's around, so obviously they kind of provided with them food, with some resources, clothes, and just kind of imagine the person who never saw like a normal material, normal clothes, or kind of canned foods, that kind of, it feels amazing, it's super tasty, wow. It's great, and they have like those God thunder machines that kind of flying on the sky. I mean, they had to be like godlike. So they definitely kind of love that. Obviously, later US just kind of come along and say goodbye to the Japanese, and then they have like the US forces. And US were particularly kind of very happy to provide them with some resources when they were sailing on the island. So I think they kind of put quite a lot of equipment, like clothes, like food, and provide them in kind of large quantities to those people. So it was amazing. I mean, to this point, they always struggled, get fed, to kind of cover themselves from colds during the night. And apparently just kind of some people came from the sky and fixed the problems. But then the war ended. And they had a problem. The US Army left. They left the base, left everything as they kind of seen it initially, and they didn't leave kind of quite a lot of resources behind them. And they never went back. And that was tough on this local tribe. I mean, they were struggling. What the hell happened? How we offended those deities, those gods? What happened? We need to bring them back. So this is what they do. They kind of noticed that all of the food is coming from the airdrops, and they were like pretty often kind of put through the airdrops. So they kind of think that, okay, so we need to make sure that those loud beasts finally will be a kind of comeback. So they've put a kind of a nice land where, in theory, the airplane could land. They've built quite a lot of kind of planes and put it on the ground just to make sure to bring over those US machines with those wonderful resources. They even actually had the air control with like the wooden headphones, which they carved from the wood. They even kind of march with a stick that kind of were to imitate a gun, and kind of try to imitate every single action that the US Army took. So they had the patrols, they had everything that they kind of see as a part of them, because from their perspective, if we are doing it, and the gods were doing it, so maybe we are going to get the benefits again. Obviously it didn't work, so I think they were pretty unhappy sitting around those planes and kind of waiting for their saviors to kind of appear again. And why I'm actually calling this out? Because essentially, quite often in a current organization, we have the same thing. The stuff that I've mentioned before, like all those consultants, is something that is still very common. Is when you have an organization that essentially don't have this maturity in place, that don't know how exactly like the software development works and why it has to be sustainable, why we need to actually know exactly what we are building, why we need to kind of interact with the customer, and what are actually the practical way of creating a software. It's hardly going to work regardless if you actually get a bunch of people, push them to some a certification, give them a certification. It's not going to fix the problem. Getting more kind of titles in your kind of email footer or in your LinkedIn is not going to make sure that you actually know how to build software. But that's kind of very often the way that many companies try to do. The same goes like you potentially heard about like Uber of something, like Uber of aircraft, Uber of bikes. Like everything is Uber, and there are like many companies that think like we are Google of that, we are Google of that, we are Google of that, and try to imitate Google. But from I've seen like two companies like that, and I even actually ask people from, do you guys know how actually Google is working? And they're like, well, they're agile. Yeah, but do you know how? Do you know what kind of goal system they have? What? They have like this OKR, objective key results. I think this is one of the things that kind of driving them and kind of keeps them together, and they kind of know it. And I mean, what do you mean? I mean that they have the goal system that works. Yeah, we have as well a system that works. Okay, so what's your goal? Well, he didn't know. He didn't remember because he said that like 8 or 9 months before, and it will be hard for him to remember. And do we have any Googles here? Any people from Google or work for Google? So essentially, the Google has a very thorough system of setting goals. There's even a book that was wrote by John Doerr about the OKR. And essentially, they kind of create a system where every single person in a Google, and this is like dozens of thousands of people, right? Every single person knows the goal of every other person with the goal and the key results. And the idea is simple. This is the way to achieve the alignment of the entire company and just to kind of make sure that even in their scale, which is very easy to do like the same thing a couple of times, they can manage because they see. They see their own goals, their own agenda, and it's done quarterly. They could actually even do it in kind of more frequently, but somehow it works for them. So every single quarter, they actually specify what they want to achieve in a quarter. And this is the most important thing they do. It's not like in many companies that I've seen is we have a project that kind of happened yesterday because somebody kind of come to the salesman with a bag of money, and we had to start immediately because that was the reason he actually signed a contract with us. No, they have a nice schedule. They know what to do. They know what is the priority. They know what's the mission. And what's more important, all of the goals are aligned to the central goal that is around the CEO. So right now, I think this is Sundar. I don't remember his last name. Regardless. And not only that, with the OKR system, you have your own way of providing goals, because half of the goal has to be your own, and you're accountable for every single of those. So you have half of the goals that are your own, you define them, you define the key results, half of them are aligned with the company goals. And that keeps company together. And even kind of a little bit helps with fixing the Conway law problem. So definitely, I think that very kind of important thing, even when you don't really can enforce the goal system, is just to kind of make sure that there is appropriate accountability. And like I said, the best language for a business, so that kind of like a pro tip, is to use the money. When people see USD, Euro, or PLNs as a unit of problem, then this is a problem. This is like a real problem. You potentially had this situation where you try to order something that costs like 20, 50 zloty, and for some reason you had to went through like 15 approvals. So just kind of imagine if somebody's kind of throwing away a large sum of money. And the idea is simple. If you're trying to keep organization accountable, you need to be able to kind of track what's fixed. I mean, if this is in your interest, it's not like I'm saying everyone should kind of try to look very close at whatever is happening in a company and try to report it every single time. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad idea, don't get me wrong, but I think majority of the people don't really have time for that. But regardless, I think the only thing you should do when you try to encounter the problem is to ask yourself a question. Can I approximate what is the cost? And then when you put a problem, you put a solution. And somehow usually it works. Maybe not the perfect way, but actually starting with the conversation. Okay, so this is something that potentially many of you know. So who has like some benefit or goal system? Any of you? That if you actually get the project done, you will get some benefits, raise, anything? No? So you have the stick potentially syndrome of being hit with the stick because there is no carrot apparently. Kind of idea is behind this syndrome is kind of simple that people in the old industries and in old organizations don't necessarily understand what is keeping people, and that's why I actually put it around at the beginning. Like, we have a market with a huge demand, with ever-increasing salary ranges, with a huge shortages, and even increasing kind of shortening amount of time that people spend at the same company. On the average, it's kind of getting lower. I mean, I think in Krakow, from my perspective, it's around 2 years. So every single time I see kind of a resume, it's just like, oh yeah, I've left actually the last 3 companies after 2 years. And that seemed to be normal for some reason. And when you have a situation like that, well, you're losing quite a lot because those people were kind of expensive, but even more expensive is to find those people, to hire those people. I mean, agencies those days definitely are not cheap, and not having a person to, deliver your product, it's another expense. So there is this nice book that is being wrote by, I think, Daniel Pink. It's called Drive. I really recommend for you to read it. And it tries to kind of summarize all of the research that was made in various universities about what actually motivates people. And it turns out that for people that like working in a factory where the quantity of work, at some quality obviously, but the quantity of work is a good measure of success and personal performance, then carrot and stick is working nice. It's kind of providing a nice benefit to the bonus system. But apparently for the people that essentially are a creative force, that they want to contribute, it's not working that well. So obviously you can give a developer, a QA or kind of manager information that, yeah, he will receive bonus if he do something like that. But let's be honest, even if he is motivated with this carrots, which usually I think they are not, then after he actually gets this carrot, he'll be demotivated again. So we, as people that are in the industry that is very creative, are expecting something different, right? We want to be able to kind of control the way we work. We want to be able to contribute. We want to kind of be able to master the kind of our skills and try to kind of be better every single day to kind of achieve something. And I think most important thing is to have a purpose. Because if you don't have a purpose, it's like a situation where you're being offered a bag of money, work for a few years, and knowing that essentially when the contract ends, your work will be just completely thrown away. I'm pretty sure that if you know that in the beginning of the project, you will not really be motivated to do the best possible thing, even if the salary was like super, super, super high. So the goal is simple: to create an environment where people can make decisions. They know what's their mission. So I will ask this very uncomfortable question. So I assume all of you guys work potentially in smaller, larger companies. How many of you know a mission, a purpose of your company? I'm not saying earn money. This is not a purpose. This is like statistic. But what is the purpose, like mission of your company? And do you know what is the part of your of you yourself as a part of this mission, of achieving this mission? Anyone knows? If anyone knows, then could you raise a hand? Awesome. So could someone actually say what's the mission of their company and provide some explanation what's their role? Anybody is willing? I don't think so. So many shy people. Gotcha. Happens. So this is something that, because usually when you have this kind of environment, it's hard. It's hard to change this environment because that's kind of the process the companies take. So how you will fix it? I mean, you potentially know we had, I think we have majority of people from Poland here. So in old days, we had people that were working for the government because everything was state-owned. And obviously, there was like a lot of controls about everything you say and everything you do. But one thing was very particular. There was a guy, he was actually from Silesia, very close to place to where I was living and where I was born. And he put kind of a manifesto, and he was a miner. He put a manifesto that he actually is putting a manifesto and looking for a people that would, with him, would put like 200% of a daily norm every single day to get our country to rebuild faster. And what the government did, essentially, is to create a vision of a hero, essentially, like the proletariat class hero. And the same mechanism actually works to the same, in the same way, even in a current organization. Could you imagine that you're sending an email when you're actually saying that we want to achieve those great things that are actually in line with our mission, and this is what we want to achieve, like just saying in the right way, what do we want to achieve? Do you think like any manager will say, like, no, I don't agree? If you kind of put yourself, or your team in a position that we commit ourselves to these kind of goals, and this is what we want to achieve, and we have confidence, and we know when to do it, does anybody is going to be against? If it's in alignment with the company goals? No, but in essence, this is the moment that you actually take control of your situation. Because you essentially kind of describe what you wanted to achieve, and you are okay with that. And the expectation is that the company has to kind of have a little bit faith in you, because if they don't really have faith in you, that potentially this is a good moment to leave a company. I mean, this is, I think, a good test, first of all, whether or not you can make a difference, and on the other hand, of how actually companies reacting to the people to step up. Because this is the moment, like every single manager I'm taking is like, oh, those developers are not really motivated, to kind of push forward. I mean, there's always like something is wrong. I mean, they kind of never want to resolve problems. And I've seen that people. And it's like, well, maybe you don't really give him a kind of opportunity to do so. So usually, in majority of the healthy organizations, regardless if they have experience or not, they'll be really happy with that. And if you send it to like the directors, to executives, they're like super happy. And kind of that's my recommendation. Try to reach the most people you potentially have at the highest possible levels. They will love it. I mean they will love it. So this is kind of nice way to kind of use the system for your own benefits and kind of team benefits. I think the best thing is to do is to kind of make it clear and make it with the team. So this is this is John Doerr kind of example of OKR. So kind of sending stuff like that with kind of timelines to a group of managers and saying, why do you want to do it? That just works like a superpower. Believe me. You can try. Okay, so that was organizational. There wasn't much. There could be like few more. I wanted to cover like not invented here syndrome and other thing, but I think I wouldn't be able to fit in the allocated timeline, which I am actually running out of my timeline as well. So maybe I'll just cover this one. So I call our language, our technical language, Developian. I know it sounds very bad, sorry for that. I wasn't that creative when I invented this word. But the idea is simple. We have a problem as a group of people to actually communicate with non-technical departments, with non-technical people, and usually the people that actually make the decisions. And this is a little bit crazy. I mean, I know that this is very comfortable for people, especially developers and technical people, to write in the way they think, right? This is kind of most comfortable. I think like, oh, this is a problem, this is what we need to do, and you put like a hell lot of idioms, a lot of like terms that nobody understands apart from the technical person. And try to share something like that with non-technical CEO. He will not really do a thing, even if you're actually crying for help. So we all know that, we all kind of encounter that, but what's the solution? This is the solution. Every single time you're speaking to a director, a manager in a business, try to imagine that you're speaking to people like them. That's the kind of downgrade to the level. So they are farmers, they are simple people, and you need to try to understand that there was some problem with your Docker instance and you need to do some work. And try to kind of downgrade into the level that those people will understand. And be short. I mean, really be short, because for them it could be really hard to even understand what's the problem, and understanding what's the solution is kind of bigger challenge. But getting to this point to understand every single time you are speaking with product owner, product manager, product director, some sales guys, someone from finance, always speak to them like they are farmers. I kind of call it the most common or kind of closest ancestor to a given people. So this kind of makes it pretty easy to communicate with them when you kind of imagine that you need always, like always downgrade. If you have like even a single person in your like email thread or in a chat, and he's a decision maker, because that's the moment. If he's a decision maker, he needs to make a decision, downgrade to the farmer level language. Always. And if you're writing an email, actually I think at some point I will need to create another speech around writing emails, because developers as well have problems. Use the Twitter rule, like in your IDEs. I kind of don't really get it. Why developers every single time they look at the code and see that, yeah, we ran kind of after 120 character line, we need to break it down. And it's easy for them, like, okay, we're reading email that. And every single time I see an email from a developer to other developer or to the other people, like the business people, they are actually writing like a story. It's kind of like several lines without any dots. You have like a sentence that kind of spans across 5 lines. Just use the Twitter rule, try to make it kind of small. And for God's sake, we have a time where we don't have like the email where you can actually put only the characters. Use bolts, use underline, use kind of a numerical kind of lines to outline something. It really helps, and kind of make sure that it's clear to who you're writing and who should answer your email. It really saves a lot. And it really actually saves a lot of your time. Because if you communicate in that way, it will limit the amount of meetings. So as far as I know, every single developer hates unnecessary meetings. When they have to explain things 100 times and to explain over and over again. Write short emails that even the most non-technical person will understand, and you're done. It's really going to reduce amount of unnecessary meetings, that essentially creating a situation where for weeks you're trying to get work done, but everybody's interrupting you. You cannot focus yourself because everybody's kind of pushing those weird, unknown invites to your calendar because they want to discuss something that you already discussed 5 times. Because the last time he just didn't get it. I'm not sure if I have time. Maybe I will try be quick with this. So this is actually the last one. I call it the alpha syndrome. This is something that I kind of, I think, don't really like the most. From all of those syndromes, I don't like it the most because this is us. I mean, this is the tech teams being a little bit unreasonable. So I've seen, especially in the kind of younger generation, this problem that people are very happy to use libraries and dependencies, actually anything that's kind of still in alpha state. I mean, there's not even like 1.0 version. I mean, I'm not even trying to bring the topic that 1.0 doesn't mean it's stable, right? But sometimes people kind of choose like alpha version with like 5 people contributing to a project, and the last commit was, well, let's say half a year ago. So definitely not a very active project, but yeah, I mean, this is new technology, it's solving a problem. Why not? We should not write the code if it's not necessary. Yeah, makes sense. But I would like to kind of put forward a very, very simple measure, because I know why. They want to do something nice, because usually the opportunities to kind of bring new technology to the project that's already in there for years, it's hard, it's problematic. If they want to do it, they want to actually learn, they want to master new stuff. That's fully understandable. But it obviously provides a lot of risk from the business, because essentially, if something breaks or something is not working as it should in other cases, you will just potentially need to do a rework. Not to mention where the compatibility is going to break, then it's going to be like a huge, significant rework. And any rework means delay to product delivery. And as well, it means kind of problems with product stability, because if you have like third-party library that you don't necessarily understand and you don't really have a faith that is going to work fine, then, well, it's going to be a problem. So this is kind of a simple solution. Just get the cost that you have and multiply it by around 14. That will be the cost in real money for you to put this wonderful library in place. Any questions? Because I think we are running out of time. Yes. I assume that means no. Yeah, that's something that I wanted to kind of share, but that was about managers, so yeah, you're actually safe from that. So are we done? Thank you very much.